Start our study session. Yes, we have a form. All righty, I have item 8A, and I am going to call that one ready. I have item 9, and I am going to call that one ready as well. Councilor Bay.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items number 10 and 11. Item number 10.
It's okay.
Is okay now? Okay, so item number 10 is ready, and number 11 is ready as well.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 12 through 15. 12 is ready. 13 and 14 we can discuss in executive session after this, and 15 is ready. Thank you.
All righty, thank you, sir. And Councilor Green is not here, but I'm going to go back in this book and see how he called his items, which he called them already. So I will call all of Councilor Green's items ready. All righty, Councilor Carney is not here. So I will go through the book, and we're going to call all of his ready and withdraw 25.
Councilor, sorry. After the meeting, we worked out how to handle that item, so it was substituted. So what's in here now is in agreement with Councilor Carney and the administration.
Oh.
25.
Okay. Okay, so all of his items will be called ready.
Yes, thank you.
All righty. Now we'll keep moving on. Councilor Mojo.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilor Green, we called you ready, sir.
Madam President, thank you. I have item 26, 27, and they are all ready.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 28 through 31. I did want Deputy Mayor to come up and speak. Can you grab her for me, please? In regards to item 28, there were some questions about the funding for this. You're okay.
Sharon Owens, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, can you just kind of clarify some of the concerns on item 28 as far as the funding? There's some concerns that some of the programs that normally get funding through this CDBG funds and home dollars aren't going to be able to get the funds. Can you kind of clear that up, please?
Yep. So let me, and forgive me if I'm preaching to the choir, but let me go through the process. So in February, we will begin our annual, I just ran up the stairs. Our annual HUD allocations for CDBG. In that process, as many of you know, there will be 3 pots of funding. CDBG, the block grant, our home funds, which is funds that are set aside for a combination of development projects and agencies that do development type of work. And then our ESG, which is our emergency shelter grant. Those are for the programs that assist housing and homeless vulnerable people, prevent eviction and that type of thing. That process is going to start in February. As most of you know, NBD will have a meeting, you all will schedule a meeting, and then we'll make final decisions when we submit it to HUD. So, what we're committing here that's in the book, let's start with the ESG, are the distressed property funds. In the proposed budget that you haven't seen yet, still tweaking it, you will see that distressed property line that you always see. We typically use for demolition type of work. You will see that budget line again with an allocation. We've actually increased it in anticipation of the infill, because part of the infill may and probably will entail demolition. So you will see that. I also want to make clear that the council understands is that you will also see the line you always see with $50,000 for the council to distribute. That is CDBG. That is what you will see in the budget coming up. In the book, we said we're going to commit 50 of that distressed property to this infill project. And then again, to the point that many of you made, 50 of our anticipated CDBG allocation to that project. Something I took a moment and I asked our NBD staff to put together, and I can never tell you how much I appreciate those folks. I'm just trying to show what
No,
I
this is from last year.
talked about in the previous meeting
I just pulled this up.
of the history of allocations for us. And we went back to 2010 to show approximately 10 years of allocation. Sorry, are there enough of allocation? Every year we receive from HUD, CDBG, ESG, home, including, you'll see what we've been committed from HUD for the year coming up that I just talked about. Commitment. It always comes in 3 pots of money. And so when I say I'm confident in the last session that we would see this again, what we don't know is what that allocation would be, but I'm confident that again, if HUD allocates money to the city of Syracuse, which they've done for years, it will include CDBG, ESG, and home. How much, we don't know. We were, as you see, got a slight increase we're anticipating this year. Again, these numbers you will see starting in February. So when we talk about the home allocation that we're committing here, the concern I understand is that we're committing what seems to be all of the money. Each year, all of the money is not spent. Each year there are projects that apply to us, that propose what they're going to do. We get home admin allocations. We don't spend every year because personnel changes, whatever the case may be, and then we reallocate those funds. So what I would ask in public forum, if there's any agency that has a concern about an application they've submitted, if you submitted an application, if you've gotten a commitment letter from us, we are honoring that commitment. But if there's any agency that has typically gotten these dollars that feels that we may be jeopardizing them, please call me, please come see me. In lieu of Stephanie not being there, I will sit with my home administrator and I will talk to you about what your projects are and how we can potentially use what we have as unspent home dollars that we didn't commit. And we didn't commit it in this project because there are times when we need to be very flexible on what we need to do. Again, we have a vision for infill that we want to be able to take the lead on for one time in the history of when we've been allocating these dollars. And I'll be quiet and let you ask questions.
No, I have no question. I have a statement actually in support of your position. And I stated as much to Councilor Hogan and Councilor Allen prior to us being here. This is for me, caution any agency, with all due respect, who would disregard what some of us, certainly myself, has been, pushing for years. I've made the statement consistently that our land resources have underperformed, and that we've made decisions to assure our underperformance at best. And I won't put them on the spot, but we have some housing agencies, by the very nature of the type of agency it is, causes us to underperform. All of them, with all due respect, need to sit back and be quiet. If you're a true public partner, then you would support the effort to improve our tax base, and ultimately provide some real relief to taxpayers in the city, a relief they haven't had for years. So I just want to caution them and make sure that they really understand the nature of our business, the nature of our current situation, and what's required for the city to be, or at least to reach, or to move in the direction of stability is probably a better way to say it.
Thank you, Councilor. And let me be clear, we appreciate all of our housing agencies. The city of Syracuse does not build housing. The city of Syracuse evokes the expertise of our housing partners. But this time the city of Syracuse wants to take the lead in how we do this. We want to do the planning. We want to look at how we're doing this. And for years, we have received applications mainly and in most part for low-income housing tax credit projects that has created affordable housing market, that we still need affordable housing. But this is the opportunity that we think we have an opportunity to get some infill done, to on a larger level create new homeowners, and as the councilor has said, who can contribute to our tax base. And so I really urge the council, NBD has always been a department that is willing to work with anyone. And so I ask anyone who has concerns to please call me. I'm right here at City Hall, main number. And I'll be willing to sit down with you and talk to you about it.
So for this year, we can ask them to do it because they didn't do it yet. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. So, sorry, Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry if I didn't follow completely, but so do we think some people are going to be, I mean, you're saying you hope from the unused funds from years past we'll be able to take care of all the people, but do we anticipate some people that normally come to us not getting?
Counselor, absolutely.
Always.
Yeah.
That's the case every time we get money. We never get enough money
Absolutely.
for everyone that wants it.
For
So
sure,
there are
for
a lot of people traditionally who are not happy with the city government, this administration, previous administration, the one before that.
right,
Because
for
we
sure.
never, and if you look at those allocation histories, we've been reduced and reduced. Look at 2010, what we got and what we get now. We've been reduced constantly. There is never enough money.
Right, of course. But do we feel, I mean, this is committing what, like a quarter of our money to something. Do you feel there will be a, how to say it? How much worse than usual do you expect it to be? You know, I mean, we know that there's never enough to go around. That's what CDBG is. We know that there's always a million great causes. And
You know, Counselor, to me, it depends on what I believe worst is. Because doing infill housing is not worst. Maybe we won't, for a couple years, do what we've done for many, many years and do something different. I don't see that as worse. But what I'm saying is that I'm committed to talking to people about what potentially the options are. But we feel that this project is in the best interest of the city to move forward and do something, commit our dollars to something that we see in the best interest of the city and the residents.
makes sense. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
I would like to just echo and maybe repeat what former Councilor at Large Pamela Hunter made a big case about, and that is agencies we fund that fail to provide deliverables year after year with CDBG. And I know she certainly led a campaign to move funding toward housing and away from programs that couldn't provide actual deliverables that we can touch and acknowledge. So, you know, again, you know, Councilor Driscoll, I think your question was probably in some ways rhetorical, because we understand that some people will. We see it oftentimes. People money gets reduced, and some people get zeroed out. You know, but it's just the nature of the situation when you have minimal resources, but you have very important things that need to be done. You know, not to the discredit of anybody else's effort.
And Counselor, let me put a period on that, just to quantify that a little bit. What we're committing here is $50,000 for 2 years. The actual, what we've been committed from HUD and what we anticipate out of distressed, that is from CDBG, the actual block grant with all the agencies. The other money is the home development money.
Right.
I just want to clarify that.
And that home development money doesn't hurt some of those companies
Not
and
at all.
services that you're talking about. They're on a totally different list. And to be like clear, like this funding is for housing, like it's not for services. Like we had, not to pick on anybody, but Soccer for Success, like that has nothing to do with housing. You know what I mean? So you have a bunch of different agencies on here that are requesting funds, but we should be using it for housing and making sure that our housing stock is stable here in the city of Syracuse.
And that conversation will begin starting February as we look at the proposed budget that we are presenting to you for presentation to HUD. Councilor.
I just want to commend, I mean, I've heard Councilor Bay in my first stint here on the council talk about infill housing for a long time, and I want to commend the administration. This is the first time in my history here that we've actually had a strategic vision for exactly where we're going to put the houses. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was here and I was mystified about the housing projects that came up.
Right.
And who was getting the money.
Right.
So I really want to commend you on that.
Yeah, we value low-income housing tax credit projects. We've been funding them over the course of the year. Doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to contribute, possibly, depending on unspent money. But the priority, we feel, this application, and again, it is an application. The funder may come back and say, we need you to tweak this or tweak that. And we still, getting 200 units built, we have a lot of work to do. We have to look at non-traditional funding opportunities. I see Department of Justice money for SEPTED operations, an opportunity to maybe do some demos. So I'm asking Janet, and I'm asking our newly appointed grant administrator manager to do some research about what are non-traditional funding opportunities we can use to pull together the amount of money we're going to need. But we have to take a first step, and the first step is submitting this AHC application.
And I'm going to piggyback because, as Councilor Bay said, this is a big win, because when you talk about it, as Councilor Hogan stated, we've been talking a lot about just directing this to housing. When you look at the landscape of the city of Syracuse, okay, when you talk about the disparity in housing, it's always in the cores of the inner city. When you go down Midland, when you go on the west side, you can look from one street to the next and see all the way through. Yes, we do have to infill. Yes, we do need to have affordable housing. We can't keep, I mean, renovations, they're great, but right now we have to get ahead of the curve. We have 81 coming. And once that comes along, we're going to have a lot of displaced people already. So we have to ensure that there's going to be somewhere for these folks to land. So I do applaud you.
Sorry to interrupt you. And it has to be strategic. We have a lot of gaps in our city.
Yes, we do.
And we need to begin to think about where we're going to fill those gaps and where we're going to make hard decisions not to. And so part of the resurgent neighborhood innovation looks at really looking at commercial corridors and building around them with housing and infrastructure development. So we have a lot of talking and planning to do going forward, but we're going to take the first step by applying, if you approve, and I urge you to, this application.
Or we'll keep talking about how we only have a certain percentage of the tax base paying taxes because we're not putting any houses up.
I'm putting any houses up.
Councilor Rutt?
Thank you. I think the proposal being proactive is great. I think a mass reallocation is great. The only thing and it might be floating around here and I just don't have it in front of me, but I do think in terms of transparency, when you tell us this list that you pass out is helpful to show the allocation over time for home, but it doesn't show the who got, for instance, like the last year. I do think it would be helpful to just proactively share that kind of thing, like the 1.2 million last year, it went to these
How
folks,
it was
just
distributed.
so we could anticipate.
So
I
also,
just haven't
we
gotten
can absolutely do that to say how it was distributed. Also, in each HUD application, the CDBG is broken down by who we propose to give it to. The home allocation is proposed based on admin, CHOTO activities, and then what's called the developer activities. In the proposal that you will see, that's not delineated because we don't know yet. Because, we will know if you approve this, that's what we're going to commit, a large part of that. But it will be broken down generally that way, but I hear what you're saying about this past year, how was it allocated?
Thank you.
I will tell you, historically, it's been heavily allocated to low-income housing tax credits projects.
And based on the question last study session, I think this is the time to do a massive reallocation, right? Because we're redoing our 5-year plan. I think, this
right
year,
now.
So all the more it makes sense. So thank you.
And obviously, there have been some planning going on beforehand because a lot of these properties are land bank properties, so we can already use them, so.
Yep. We are, again, proactively looking at what we technically can control, land bank properties or lots, and SURA-owned properties or lots.
So what would be an average cost of a house?
So that's an excellent question. They cost to build approximately $275,000 a unit. So we're proposing both single and two-family. The best two-family would be an owner-occupied two-family. And so each unit would cost about $275,000. Now, they don't sell for $275,000. I think I saw Carrie in here.
Right there.
We could probably sell them between 70 to 90, depending on where.
Yeah, but we pushed the market even to say 100.
Come on up to the microphone, Carrie.
Kerry Quaglia, Home Headquarters. And, we've seen that there's tremendous demand for new construction. So we've been able to push the market. Initially, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were selling new homes for $70,000, $80,000. The last couple that we've built, we've sold in the 120s. Now, it depends a lot on the neighborhood that, and what the appraised values are in the neighborhood. But to the greatest extent possible, what we're going to try to do is cluster these homes on certain blocks so that you begin to build some value on those blocks.
What's the rent? Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Are these all from the ground up, or are some of them are being rehabilitated and they're already there?
The infill project is all new housing from the ground up. The advantage of that is there's no lead, there's no asbestos, there's no radon. Every new home now has to have a radon mitigation system. Plus, they're energy efficient. If you happen to take a look at the 700 block of Atisco, we're building a two-family home there. We're doing it with SIPS panels, structurally insulated panels. Already has the foam built in. They're highly energy efficient. You'll never have lead in those homes. You'll never have asbestos in those homes. You'll never have radon in those homes.
I would add, if you, and you guys are out all the time, if you ride down Kennedy Street, if you ride around Baker Ave and see how those new houses really transform the look. The other thing I'll be working with Carrie and other development partners about in this whole approach is, let's push the envelope on design. Let's look beyond and out the box when it comes to, there are some really innovative things. I'm a HGTV junkie. So let's push the envelope when it comes to what kind of houses we're building, what materials we're building, how are they going up. If we can begin to look at designs that can cut construction costs by the time it takes to build them, we may be able to really, be able to do it cost efficiently. So I'll be, meeting with Carrie a lot, and other housing development partners to talk about how can we push the envelope about how we build these houses and what designs we look at as well.
Carrie, could you answer a question for me? We talked about the build of the new house. Just for a comparison, what's the price of renovating?
We found there's really no difference, that a lot of the vacant properties that we purchase, you're looking at very comparable budgets to substantially rehab a property. And frankly, unless you're doing lead abatement, if you're just doing lead hazard control, there's a chance that within 20 years those lead hazards would come back in those rehabilitated homes. The cost is about the same. Obviously, where a property has some historic significance, it's really important to the fabric of a street or a block, you're going to renovate that home. You don't want to take it down and build new. But there's so many lots, and then we frankly see so many houses that need to come down that could make really good new building sites.
Thank you.
Carrie, I'm a Bloomberg radio junkie, so like interest rates are near zero for a long time. That obviously makes it so people can afford a bigger mortgage.
Right.
So how sensitive would like a 2 percentage point change affect our formula here for getting people to cover?
What we're finding is that we're getting first-time home buyers into properties, and that the monthly mortgage payment is actually less than they're paying for rent. Now, as far as buyers are concerned, sometimes our banking partners and credit union partners aren't approving these folks. All of the first-time home buyers will go through our home ownership classes, and we believe that they're mortgage ready and that they're a good risk. So more than likely what we'll wind up doing is home headquarters will put the mortgage on so that we get these properties occupied right away. We'll season those mortgages for a year, and then we'll sell them to our banking partners. Just this year, we sold our first mortgages to Get Us Federal, Solvay Bank, NBT, and Pathfinder. The banks get CRA credit, so they're happy to do this, and we're happy to get those folks in the home, get the loan seasoned for a year. Usually if there's going to be any delinquency, it happens in the first year. It's working well, and that's why we think we're in a position now to put it on steroids, so to speak.
Councilor Majoke, just to finish, I don't think I finished answering your question. So the sale, whatever that sale, and as Carrie mentioned, we're pushing the market and getting good success in some neighborhoods. So that gap between construction and actual sale is where these subsidy dollars come in.
Okay, and excuse me, which bring me to another question. Considering that part of the reason why our housing are falling apart is that people can't keep up with them, right? Mm-hmm. And considering that to build a house costs $275, you're going to sell it roughly for $80,000. An average income in our city is between $30,000 and $40,000. 35,000. Do you think realistically, when we put these people in, that they're going to keep up with it and not lose their homes?
Yeah, well, part of the allure of new construction is that you don't have to do much, right? It's a new roof, it's new siding, it's new windows, it's new furnace, new electrical. So at least for the first 10 years or so, the homeowner's not going to have to do much by way of repairs. Now, if they want to put a fence in or something along those lines, that's their individual choice. But as opposed to rehabilitation, we actually think it's a more affordable alternative because their utility bills are going to be a lot less as well.
Now, how low of income are we talking about? Because if you talk about, because if somebody's making $35,000 and you're selling them an $80,000 home, you're talking about what, $700, $800, $900 mortgage a month, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty much what they're paying for rent right now.
Right.
Right. Isn't that? And what I'm trying to say is, when you consider that, and some of these people in our community get subsidies, and once you put them into their home, that subsidy side is out, right?
Well,
let me, the thing you have to, so there's a couple key things I think have to be understood. The average rent in the city of Syracuse is $761 a month.
Right.
The average affordable rent, not to be confused with low income, is $861 a month.
Right.
People are already paying on the south side, near west side, and other
Right.
places between $800 and $1,100, $1,200
Right.
a month for apartments that are subpar. So they already have the capacity. And I think we also have to, you talk about a median income of $35,000, which is up, from 33 just a couple of years prior. That is more than enough to pay an $800 rent, obviously, because they have, I don't think many landlords would approve them if they didn't think they had capacity. So, but, and Councilor Rudd actually mentioned it when you asked the question. That's the reason for the house only being, $80,000 as opposed to $200,000 or $170,000. Is the fact that it fits the environment.
And just to clarify, so you can be considered low or moderate income and qualify for these homes. A family size of 1, you can earn up to $44,500. A family size of 4, you can earn up to $63,600. So we're not talking about a super low income person. You would never want to put a person in a position to fail. We're going to sell these homes to people who can be successful with it.
And can I just say this? And I'm hearing all this failing stuff, and I'm just going to go back. I bought my house when I was making $20,000. I kept my house for 30 years making $20,000, okay? So don't just count people out because you're saying they only make $35,000. You can't count people out.
I think we also have to be aware and contribute a lot of the housing deterioration to, the redlining that happened in the 50s and 60s. We have an old housing stock, and so certainly the economic climate was different then than it is now. But in those days, people couldn't get access to funds to maintain their house and so on and so forth, which is why it has kind of become or reached the condition it's in now.
Now, I want to be very clear that part of the reason why I'm asking these questions is to be coaches. And like most people here, I have seen the conditions of our neighborhoods and the condition that our people live in. And no one in a first world country should live like that.
Absolutely.
And so for me, I'm looking at it in a way that once we set an individual up to succeed, that is a guarantee that individual must succeed for us not to come back into the same position that we are in. Look at so many houses every week, every month are coming in through land bank. You don't want to go through that again, and the banks and having to deal with banks, that's all. But I think, like I said on last week, that this is a good initiative. It's a good initiative and it's long overdue. But at the same time, we can't get too excited not to look at.
No, we have a lot of
critical.
work to do.
Right,
Can I
right.
for a second?
That's
So
what
this
I'm
isn't a housing program as if we're giving people homes or we're giving away something. All of these people that are going to be purchasing these homes have to be qualified to purchase a home. So it's not like if you only make $20,000, we're going to put you in a home. If you can't afford it, it's affordable housing, then you still wouldn't be able to live in that home. In Central New York, we typically go off a 1% rule. So if I make $36,000 a year, the bank is going to tell me that I can afford a mortgage 3 times what I make a year. So that means that my mortgage can be up to $108,000. That 1% rule means that my mortgage would be $1,080 a month. That's what the bank will tell you that you can afford. So we're not going to put somebody in a position to where we're going to qualify you for this mortgage knowing that you can't afford it. Like, the whole idea of it is it's affordable housing.
No, I understand that, and what I'm saying is everyone that get their house taken by a bank, at some point there was a guarantee that this person was going to have that house and going to afford it.
Not necessarily, though, through banking, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little different. Even here with the city of Syracuse, you have access to the Financial Empowerment Center. Like, those things are put in place to help people. So you have the Financial Empowerment Center, and then you also have this particular initiative where people can gain access to a mortgage. And so there are things put in place to where we don't want to see people fail. As a city, we don't want to see people fail.
At the risk of sounding like a philosopher, expectation is the greatest cause of disappointment. The one thing we cannot control is the next man's will or the next woman's will. Of course, people are going to fall short. That is their responsibility, though. We have to be clear about that. We're grown people in here, and we're cognizant, we're aware of what's required to maintain ourselves, our family. And so what we provide is opportunity, not guarantees. Let's not send the wrong message. We don't guarantee anybody anything, but we lay the foundation so that everybody has an opportunity to do whatever it is they need to do.
I also will say that we as a city have to take the steps to create a diverse, strong, safe housing stock. There are multiple levels of that. From the very low income housing tax credits, that there are many people who, through home headquarters and home buyer education, could qualify for a house, who would like to live in those properties, but they make too much money. So these folks in the gap are looking for a housing opportunity. Downtown is burgeoning with very expensive condos. We need people in the middle to be able to have, home ownership opportunities or rental if they don't want to own a home. But a strong housing market has to have a continuum of housing options for people. That is quality, to your point.
All right. With that said, I'm going to call this item ready.
Thank you.
And 29, 30, and 31 are already.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 32. Unless there are any questions, I would call this item ready. Announced the February 12th one? Yeah, so this was, again, item 32 is in regards to the draft general environmental impact statement. We're going to be having a full committee meeting to discuss the environmental impact statement on February 12th at 5:30 after normal hours, so that all of the public that are interested in attending have time to attend. Public comment period will begin on February 5th regarding this item. So if anyone would like to submit public comment, there are numerous ways you can reach out to the city to do that, or can add them to the city clerk, send any correspondence to the city clerk. So, unless anyone has any questions, no? All right.
I need a motion to adjourn the executive session.
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, good.